Welcome to the Practice Podcast, a show created by lawyers to help lawyers in life and business without all the complicated lawyer language. Let's welcome Bast Amron founders and your hosts, Jeff Bast and Brett Amron.
Hi, Jeff.
On the air.
We are on.
Brett Amron. Hello and welcome to the... I know you love when I do that.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm well. We're recording on a Monday. We don't usually record on Mondays, but...
We did it because our schedules have been a little crazy.
Misaligned.
And this is a very, very special guest.
Yeah, we're excited.
We wanted to get her in here.
Before we get to the guest, I think you're going to like this question today. If you could make up a rule that everyone had to follow... I was like,
the timing of this is perfect.
This is going to be a rule. It could be business, professional, personal, whatever. Mm-hmm. A rule that everyone has to follow, which I guess presumes that they're not currently following.
Well, I mean, this is one that everyone around here knows, and on time is late.
Mm-hmm. That's hard.
Early is on time, and late is disrespectful.
So your rule is...
On time.
People must always be on time. People must always be early for
like why not?
scheduled.
By the way, it helps you, right? If you are the person that's getting to an appointment and you walk in the door, if the appointment's at 9 a.m. and you walk in the door at 9 a.m., you're not going to be like calm, settled, prepared for whatever that is.
Agreed. No,
right?
I agree. I hate being late.
How does that work for like Zoom? You know, I mean,
I do. I get on a couple minutes early.
Oh, always.
Like if you went to a meeting, right? Our guest is, we would have asked you anyway, but I appreciate you doing that. We're going to introduce you, but I like that. I get on a couple minutes early. My ego is not so large that I need to present myself with everybody else on his Zoom, be the last one in, right? Like there are people that will do that, right? Yeah. So for me, if you go to a meeting, in-person meeting, do you walk in exactly at the time of that meeting?
No, I got here early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So for Zoom, why shouldn't it be the same thing?
You just got to plan it though. I'm just saying because my calendar is like back to back.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Right. Sure.
You just have to build in a little bit of space.
100%. Yeah. And we ask people that are putting stuff on our calendar to do that, to be mindful of that. And if for some reason I am tied up, I will send a message that says, listen, I apologize. I'm on a call that's running long or I'm in a meeting running long. I'll be there.
Sure. No, I agree with that.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but I really do try to be early. And it takes away a lot of the stress too, even if you're going in person. With the traffic here, oh my God, so why do that to yourself? I used to do that. I would like white knuckle it down to whatever I was going to, whether it was for the kids or for work or whatever. And, it would just, I'd get there and I'd be all sweaty and I'd be angry and what kind of, mindset is that? It's just not great.
I would submit that the age of video conferencing has increased punctuality. Because I think people are more on time for video conferences than they were typically for conference calls or meetings or whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why, at least for me anyways.
You still have those people though that are really straggling at 2, 3, 5 minutes after like, oh, hey, everyone. Like, because their egos are so big. That
Nothing
so
to me,
busy,
when someone's late, nothing that drives me more crazy than not only are you late, but now you're disrupting the meeting by telling us why you're late. I don't care why you're late. I don't care about the traffic you were in. I don't care. Whatever. We all were dealing with that. So.
Right.
Anyway.
What's the rule? No. What's the rule?
Mine would be pick up after yourself. There should be no litter on this planet. If everyone would just pick up, other than things that blow off a garbage truck, which
then
also
you have
should
to
have been tied down in a
people.
bag. But just pick up after yourself. And as a general rule, everywhere. When you make coffee, throw the pot out when you're done.
Pet peeve. Oh my God.
When you make a mess, you clean up after yourself. It's a pretty basic thing. When you go to the beach, don't leave your garbage in the sand,
I like that one.
Because I'm tired of picking up after everybody else.
We're going to ask our guest after you.
Why don't we
give her
introduce
a
her?
Great introduction. We're going to ask her what her rule is. So she'll have a minute
our
to think
guest
about
today is Adriana. I'm just saying like a gringo. Adriana Rivera-Badell.
All right.
I tried to do the...
No, it's terrible.
Okay. Adriana is a trial attorney at Coburn & Kim in Miami. She focuses her practice on high-stakes trust and estate disputes, multi-jurisdiction litigation, and cross-border asset recovery. And she has significant experience in matters involving Latin America. She's appeared before multiple federal appellate courts. She has secured notable victories in complex litigation cases, commercial cases, white-collar. Chambers recognizes Adriana as a leading attorney in white-collar crime and government investigations, and she is widely regarded for her effective, detail-oriented advocacy. Welcome, Adriana.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very kind.
Yeah,
welcome.
Thank you. You want to lay out your rule for the folks at home?
Wow, I don't know that I have one. That's hard.
Oh, I bet your kids and the people that work with you think otherwise. Well, come on, there's got to be something.
My rule is think carefully before you speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a rule that I actually learned from the founders of my firm.
Mm-hmm.
It applies not just in the context of client conversations, although, of course, that's where they apply it most frequently, and that's where we were trained. But just in general, I think people seem to think that it's appropriate to have a stream of consciousness out there without realizing the impact on the listeners.
Yeah.
So that's just...
So a sort of spin off of that for me with my kids as well, and, with young lawyers is, God gave you 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth for a reason.
It's a
Listen,
really good point.
Observe, and speak when necessary.
It would be convenient to have 2 mouths, so to eat in one and talk in the other.
That would be perfect for Jeff would like that. But in reality, that's true, right? It's the same thing that you're saying, which is listen, pay attention before you just speak.
Yeah. And I think
that's the corollary, definitely.
That thinking before you speak is even more important today in the age of written communication because people text, message, and whatever else, email as a substitute for speaking, but also don't think about, how it's going to be heard or what they're saying when they send that communication.
Yeah, and I've tried to teach my children that. I give them these horrible examples. I say, for example, I had a client once who sent what he thought was like an innocent text message. He never thought that years down the road, a federal prosecutor is going to be looking at that and saying like, hey, what did this mean? And he's like, it was a joke. And the federal prosecutor's like, I don't think so. I think you were referring to committing a crime, which he certainly was not. But this is what I try to teach my, this is a true story.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what the message was? Or is it something that?
Oh, it was actually, this is even better. And this is why my rule is I do not use emojis at all.
Really?
None. Zero. Okay. They're not even on my text. Like, if you look at my keyboard, my daughter is like, where's your emojis? I'm like, it's not there because I don't use them.
I like that.
As a rule. This was a picture. It was a picture of a little boy who was dirty. And the prosecutor was investigating essentially manipulated statements that were being submitted to the government for purposes of this business's operations. And so the prosecutor interpreted the picture of a little boy as like, oh, you have to get dirty in order to succeed at this business.
Oh, wow.
And my client was one of the junior executives at the business. He's like, no, it was literally just a funny picture of a kid who was dirty.
Right.
And the prosecutor's like, yeah, I don't think that's what that was.
So now you're just defending. It's a whole now.
It was a pretty bad grilling.
That's a leap. Yeah. That is wow.
I mean, in other contexts, you can understand why, who it was being sent to. I can, look, as a rule, I don't like prosecutors, but in this case, not to be, listen, I have many of my partners are former prosecutors, so I know Brett is as well, But no, in this case, I can understand why she would think that. But it was really hard. Now, ultimately, my client was fine, but it took some doing.
Think about how much time it's been, how much money and all
energy.
Right? And energy and the stress because the client was like, probably, oh no, like, now what?
He was so anxious about it.
I had to be, sure.
Like, I was reassuring him, like, we'll get through it. But of course, we identified it, in preparing to meet with the prosecutor. And he was like, no way, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but just be prepared. And we prepared him. We grilled him upside down on that.
But it's just one more thing to,
It's another thing you have to explain. And when you're explaining, you're losing. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about your path, because your path is a little bit, not unusual, but not typical for lawyers, right? You didn't, you have a bit of a financial background before you went into the practice of law. So give us a little bit of, the history of that and why you decided to make that pivot and actually go and practice law.
So I actually, from the time I was a young child, thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up here in Miami. Oh, okay. I wasn't born here, but I moved here as a child. And it was interesting because no one in my family is a lawyer. They're all primarily business people in different parts of finance or insurance or different things. But I always had a penchant for debating. I was a very strong-willed child. It's remained that way today. I have a very aggressive personality. People would always tell me, you'd make a great lawyer, which didn't have the sense to understand that was an insult for how sassy I was, talking about self-awareness. But so when I got to college and I asked people, like, what do you study in college if you want to be a lawyer? They said, well, you should do political science. So I started down that path and I did not like it. I didn't like the classes. I didn't like philosophy and human rights and all those classes. I thought they were interesting, but it's like, this is not something I want to spend my college career studying. And my brother was at the business school. And he said, you really should just come over to the business school. And I did, because I actually really like math. I was always good at math. I really enjoyed it. So I went to the business school and I studied finance and accounting. And when I graduated, all of my offers were in finance and accounting. And I thought, this is a good way to start, because I may not ultimately like law. At least I should get a solid career first and then decide. And so that's what I did.
And it was always a stepping stone? Like in your mind, when you went to work in finance, you were always like, okay, this is a step towards law? Or did you?
At that stage, I wasn't sure. When I graduated from college, I thought I still probably wanted to go to law school, but I really did want to have like a solid work experience in order to see if it was something that was worth doing.
Okay.
And when I we have analysts at our firm who are college grads who are considering potentially going to law school. I tell them, I practice what I preach. I say to them, look, don't go to law school because your parents want you to, or you think you're going to make a lot of money, or you think it's a respectable profession, or any of that. You should only go if you really are truly committed to doing that. And how do you test that? For me, and I think for a lot of people, it's have a good, solid career, and I did, and then decide if you really want to go to law school, it's because you've made the decision that it's worth giving up, as I did, a really good, salary, a good position. I had done well at the firm that I was working at. That's where I met Brett's wife, Lauren, who was one of my mentors when I was there. And if you decide at that stage you can give all of that up, then you know that you have a commitment. And that's what I did. So when I was at Arthur Andersen, unfortunately they're now defunct, when there was Big Five back then, I actually got to work with a lot of people who were either lawyers, like Lauren had been a JD MBA, or Steve Solomon, who was himself a lawyer practicing law and then went back to Arthur Andersen and then went back to practicing law, or people who were married to people I was working with, like Jim Fellman's wife, a lot of lawyers who I worked with. And I got to see the work that lawyers did, because the partner I worked with was both involved in corporate restructuring and bankruptcies, but also testified as an expert witness. And so I got to see a lot of that. And it was when I was at Andersen, my father actually is the one who told me, hey, didn't you want to be a lawyer? Wasn't that your goal at one point? And I said, yeah, but in the interim, I really like doing this work. And he's like, you should really think about that. And so I did. I applied to law school. I only applied to the University of Miami because I knew I was going to stay in Miami. It's where I wanted to ultimately live and practice the rest of my life. So I only applied to UM and I got in. They were very generous. And I decided ultimately that this was what I wanted to do. And when I got to law school, I really, really committed to going to law school. And it's because I had given up, a lot to get there.
Wow. And then after law school, what'd you do?
After law school, it's interesting. While I was in law school, I got the pleasure of working with Brett. So I clerked at Genevieve's back in the day. And then after that, my second summer, I went and I met you, Jeff, because
That's really funny. I don't think we've had that. Someone who worked with both of us separately.
And yet, look at her.
Yeah.
She's still here.
She survived.
She survived. Yeah. She's thriving. Not just survived, but thriving.
No, yes, because I've learned from both of you.
Genevieve's, and then you're at Hunton.
And then I was at Hunton for the second summer. And then I ended up starting at Hunton right out of law school and was there. That's where I started my career and was there for about 4 years before I went to my current firm, Courtroom, where I've been almost 15 years.
Wow. Great. What made you make the move?
From Hunton to Courtroom? Uh-huh. So it was a very difficult decision at the time. What I was missing at Hunton, I loved being there. I loved the people.
Yeah, great firm.
It's a great firm. I love the people. I love the work. But despite working with former federal prosecutors, Marty was a former federal prosecutor, John DeLeonardo, they were both, they didn't do white-collar defense work. And I really wanted to do white-collar defense work. And I wanted to continue very high-level international, high-stakes civil litigation, which I did at Hunton. And so I was called by a recruiter and I told him, look, don't call me about going to the next other big firm in town because I have that. So only tell me if there's like a really unique opportunity that combines these factors. And one of them was, I want to do white collar defense work. I want to continue to do like high stakes work, international work, cross-border work, particularly if it has to do with Latin America. And he called me and he's like, there is a firm. And I was like, what is this unicorn? I've never seen this firm before. And Courtroom had opened its offices in Miami a few years before I joined, and they said, he told me there's this opportunity. Do you want to go check it out? And I said, great. I went and I talked to them. It took me like a solid 6 months, though, to really decide to move, because I was going from a 1,000-person firm at Hunton that had been established for 100 years to a tiny boutique that at the time had 35 lawyers worldwide.
Yeah.
And had been around for, at that point, 10 years.
When did that firm start?
Maybe less, 2003.
2003.
So less than 10 years when I interviewed in 2010. And so it was a big change. It was a big risk, although really in retrospect, it wasn't.
But at the time, the perception at the time was it was a big risk, right?
It was, exactly.
Sure.
And I remember telling my husband every night, I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, what is wrong with you? Just try it, right? If it doesn't work, he's like, it sounds like a great opportunity. And if it doesn't work, fine, then you'll go back and find a different job. It's not a big deal.
Right.
I was like, wow, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
And I did, and it worked out, thankfully.
And
that's amazing.
It was one of the characteristics you were looking for, a lifestyle for. No, I'm just sorry. Why white collar? Why white collar defense? Like, why did that speak to you?
I've always had this kind of fight for the underdog mentality. And my experience has been, and I still believe this to be the case today, the United States government has essentially as close to limitless resources as you can get. And yet, because it's run by humans, oftentimes we'll get it wrong. And if you even just an investigation, I'm not even talking about necessarily charging someone, but even investigating someone is really detrimental to their entire life and to their business prospects. And I wanted to be involved in defending people. And look, I'm not, naive, and I'm not saying that everyone who I represent didn't do something wrong. There are degrees of what's right and wrong, and I can debate philosophically whether certain things should be charged federally or whether you should go to jail for certain conduct. But putting that aside, even in those cases, I think people need this strong defense to really be up against the mighty force of the U.S. government. That's what I've always been interested in. And unfortunately, I don't have the Constitution to be a prosecutor, but I do to be a defense lawyer. And so I am true blue defense in that regard.
Interesting. Cobra and Kim, I just want to talk about the firm. They started in 2003. You joined when? 2010. 2010.
End
and
of
there were
2010.
about 35 lawyers, you said, at that time. To what do you attribute the success of this firm, the growth, and what's the story?
So a couple of things. The two founding partners in particular, both are quite different and both are extraordinary. But what they did is when they started the firm in 2003, they were coming out of the federal government. They were prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. And they decided they could have gone to any of the white shoe firms in New York. And they said, we don't want to do that. We don't want to just do what all of our peers are going to do and live this, I say easy, but, relatively easy life of going to a firm. And as so many former federal prosecutors from a very prestigious office do.
Sure.
They instead wanted to try something different. They wanted to develop a firm that would attract like-minded lawyers to do the very high-quality work that they do and to develop sort of a niche practice. And what I attribute the success of the firm to is both the ability to maintain discipline. So we are extremely disciplined about the cases we take and the cases we don't take. And that's just as important as the cases that we take. And we've stayed true to the sort of fundamental beliefs about how we're going to run the firm. And it doesn't mean that there are lots of models out there for how to run a firm, and they're all great, but we've decided on one, and we've maintained a very strict discipline for that one. And the second is just a dedication to working with subject matter experts, people that we truly respect. When I look at the partnership, I remember even when I joined the firm, the people who were in the partnership were truly extraordinary. They were at the top of their field. They were highly regarded, and they had at least one area of deep substantive expertise that you really couldn't find elsewhere. And it's the combination of those subject matter experts and a dedication to really high quality work and the discipline combined that, makes us what we are today.
And how many lawyers?
It's today? About 120 now. Wow. So we've quadrupled in about 15 years.
So basically two. Did they start with two, or is it?
It was the two of them.
Two
the first 7 years.
In the first 7 years, and then another.
And then they quadrupled. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 15 years after.
So, right. So to me, right, what the underlying sort of component there is honing their craft. Like they were first and foremost really good at what they did. wanted to bring in people who were really good at what they did. But to maintain that, there's the discipline, right?
Yep.
And that is the hard part, is making sure that everybody, A, that you bring in, and B, the people that you bring in are like-minded, really good at what they do, but then that everybody maintains that discipline.
Yeah, that they buy into the model.
And my question goes to what you attribute without giving away trade secrets, but what do you attribute to the ability to maintain that discipline, over time as you grow? I mean, that's a hard thing to do.
It's really hard to do. And I think it's just once you buy in, so you have to attract the right people. And look, we've gotten it wrong like others.
Sure.
We've had people join the partnership that probably should not have. But we maintain also the ability to self-critique, which I think is fundamental really for any business that wants to stay true to its form, but also to be successful. You have to engage in self-criticism. And the two men that started the firm, that's like a pillar of what they've done from the very beginning. And so once you do that, once you get sort of the right group of people who buy into the model, then it's easier to maintain the model because you see that it can be successful. They took the risk up front. Those two guys, again, they could have gone with the quote unquote easy route, the relatively more easy route, and they chose not to. And their success, I think, was what then caused people to say, hey, they can do it, and I'm willing to buy into that. Then together we can make it even more successful. And that's what's happened, because if you see that the model works, then it attracts more people. And the model has worked. Fundamentally, every year we're getting stronger. And I look at our partnership today, it's the strongest it's been since I have been a partner in the last 10 years. Yeah. So it's very strong.
Are you able to elaborate on the model? You're saying the model works. What is the model?
So the model is the following. First of all, we don't recruit lateral partners to buy books of business. There's a perfectly appropriate model. Lots of firms do it. We don't. Who do we recruit? We recruit people who buy into the following. You're going to do work that requires you to be a substantive expert in a field of law, and that you're willing to collaborate with other people who have similar expertise in different areas. Our work requires us to be multidisciplinary, and it requires, so I might know, for example, I can't just know Florida trust and estates law. I need to be able to have a basic understanding of offshore trust law. And I know that I have partners who are experts in offshore trust law, but I need to be able to collaborate with them on that area because our clients require it. We have cross-border work as one example. So it requires us to commit to working with people collaboratively. Our compensation is all driven by that philosophy that we're working together, collaborating, that we're bringing the best people to the matter, not because you know the client or because you're friends with the client or whatever the matter, whatever the case may be, but that you're the right fit for that project that requires a commitment to that model. And the model is really fundamentally based on collaboration.
And the commitment that you speak of personally, you're educating yourself on, let's say, offshore trusts, for example, to get to a certain level, which I understand, but that is not necessarily billable time. So you're actually spending your time to educate yourself so that you could be more valuable to the firm and to your clients. That's right. A commitment, that you're giving.
It's a commitment, and it's a commitment on the part of the partnership, because one thing that amazed me when I first spoke to Michael Kim about this years ago, I said, Michael, what do you see is the difference between why our firm has been able to grow, and yet there are a lot of firms here in Miami, as an example, that are very strong, but they only maintain 2 or 3 people, and they're never really able to grow beyond that. Why is that? And he said, look, I'll tell you one reason I think it could be. In our case, when we hire lawyers that come to the firm, we hire very experienced. We don't hire junior lawyers. We only hire experienced lawyers. And we make a commitment to them that we want them to develop that level of expertise if they're committed to staying at the firm long term. And so what happens? People will come to us, and a lot of firms will succumb to this. They'll say, oh, so-and-so wants to hire me for X litigation. It's not particularly special. It's not in our area of expertise, but they're going to pay us for it. And they're not willing to pay us our standard rates, but they're willing to pay us some discounted amount. We should just do that, right? And it's really hard. Believe me, I ran a business, right? I know that when you are reliant on cash flow, it's really hard to say no to someone who wants to pay you. But Michael Kim said, we won't take that case because we want to maintain the capacity to do the work that ultimately we want to attract. So yes, we will pay lawyers to not be busy because we expect that during that time, they are going to be learning the expertise that is going to help us attract the types of cases we want.
I think I heard you say that you only hire experienced lawyers. So all growth is lateral, but you're not looking for books of business, I think was the other point you made. So you don't have law clerks, or how does that work?
So what we do instead, and this is another unique aspect of our firm, is we hire analysts. So we hire non-lawyer professionals who are staffed to every single matter that we have. We have analysts and we have litigation assistants. We have an entire program that's dedicated to recruiting graduates from the best colleges around the world to come work at the firm. And they are a combination of paralegal / junior associate. And in my view, I think they provide a significant advantage over first or second year associates in that they actually don't have legal training, which I think at a young age can be quite constraining. Our firm is also one of the fundamental aspects of how we practice law is we try to be innovative. And that requires out-of-the-box thinking. And going through law school, unfortunately, sometimes takes that away. Right. Actually restricts your ability to think creatively. Our analysts come in and help us, and they supplement that. And they work under the supervision of experienced lawyers. So we're typically hiring lawyers that are at least 4 or 5 years out of law school, but we're hiring analysts and litigation assistants right out of college. And they go through a gauntlet to get hired, and they go through extensive training even when they join the firm, and it's continuous. That's another thing that we as a firm have committed to is constant training of both our lawyers and our non-lawyer professionals.
Do the non-lawyer professionals, do any of them ever graduate up, go to law school, and then come work at the firm? Have you?
Yes, they have. And we have actually a partner in our BVI office who, when I joined the firm in 2010, was an absolutely amazing analyst.
Oh, wow.
He helped us. We had a $120 million judgment. At the time was huge. Now, in comparison to the types of judgments we're enforcing, is actually relatively small. He was helping with that enforcement campaign, and he was just brilliant. And he's still brilliant today. And so yes, we're actually, it's amazing. I didn't know this until about 5-6 years ago. We realized that our analyst program was becoming a pipeline to some of the best law schools. So I have 2 of my really elite analysts that I worked with last year. One who went to trial with me last summer is at Yale, and she's actually a roommate with another one of my analysts from Miami. They're both at Yale.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm also, I have we have a program every year for our analysts. It's like, so you want to go to law school, and talking about that. I actually do the other one I prefer, which is so you don't want to go to law school.
Oh, right.
So we've had analysts go to business school. One of my analysts in Miami went to Yale Business School. So they have just an amazing level of talent, and I prefer that they not go into law school, but if they do, I help them as well.
Right. That's cool. That's amazing.
So other than being a superstar and working at a world-class firm, what does Adriana like to do for fun on the weekends? Where would we find you?
Fun?
Well, that's kind. I like to exercise. It's like a thing I've picked up really around COVID. So my kids will make fun of me, but I try to exercise every day. And that includes the weekends.
All kids make fun of all parents. That's just it's the nature of it.
It's a fair point.
It's fair.
What's your medium? What's your exercise?
I try to mostly do strength training at least 3 or 4 times a week. And then I hate it, but I will run or walk or bike. A rowing machine. Yeah, that's the other thing I like to do.
Run. And are you running on a treadmill, or are you getting outside like Brett Amron?
On a treadmill. I know. Fred's like, oh God, no.
No, it's okay. Hey, movement, any kind of movement for me, for anyone is welcome. Like, I love that. Yeah. So listen, I understand. A lot of people they hate it. They hate running. They don't want to be outside. They want to be on. It's great. Like, whatever anyone is going to do.
Yeah.
I'm all in. Like, I think that's great.
I know, I'm with you. And honestly, to call what I do running is extremely charitable. It's really more like some fast walking / I don't know what I'm doing.
I know my breathing is elevated and my heart kind of moves a little faster.
And my legs are doing something in combination. But no, I really like Pilates and yoga as well. So I try to do a combination of things that makes it not boring.
And it helps mentally too, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I don't exercise, I get anxious and like despondent even.
Yeah, right.
I need to.
Okay.
And then the rest of my time is taken up with doing things with my children. I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
My oldest is in college. He's a junior at Fordham. He's 20. And then my middle daughter is 16. She's a sophomore. And my youngest is 13. She's an 8th grader. So there's always something going on. This weekend we were at Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, with like so many teenage girls. It was crazy.
We are recording in October. It's really crazy that we're already there. That's amazing. And you find that you said something like your kids make fun of you with your food. What does that mean?
Yeah. So
as if Jeff's feigning as if his kids never make fun of him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the unicorn.
Because you're the cool dad.
Exercise. Yeah. No, I mean.
Oh yeah.
You're saying that they make fun of your fitness.
Yes, they do, because they're like, Mom, really? It's like Saturday. Why do you have to exercise? Or it's Sunday. Why do you have to exercise? Like, they also call me a nut mom because I tell them not to eat processed foods. But
I get made fun
one
of
day
all the time.
they will thank you.
My kids, when we go to dinner, they usually point and they say, Dad, there's a plant outside. If you want to grab some of the leaves off the plant, you can put that on your plate and eat.
That's right, because you're a vegan, right? Yeah. No, I have not gotten that far, but I do try to get them to avoid processed foods. I don't think it's...
Just make smart decisions, which none of us did as kids. So, like, you have to be a little bit lenient with them. Their bodies are pliable. They're able to fix it.
I'm trying.
It's not as necessary for them.
Yeah, but I try to balance.
You're modeling the behavior.
You're modeling.
To me, I always loved to exercise in front of my kids because I wanted them to see that that's part of our lives. And
they're still going to make fun of you.
Your kids will all be.
I try to get them to join me. Like, I try to get my daughters to join me in yoga or Pilates, and they're like, yeah, thanks, Mom, we'll pass.
Wow. All right. Well,
this is fun. Thank you for
Adriana's kids. If you're listening and you made it this far,
stop making fun of your mom. She's
stop
great.
making fun of your mom and hit the gym with her.
Come on. She's cool, Mom.
Go for a run. And while you're running, you can listen to the Practice Podcast. And if you are so inclined, leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. And
not while you're running. You can't leave the review while you're running. I mean, you could if you took a break.
Don't leave the review.
That sounds hard.
Don't leave the review while you're running. Finish your run.
Thank you, Adriana.
Adriana, thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. It's been so much fun.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For more information on this show and other resources, visit fastamron.com and connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram @fastamron.